This is why I love the Boondocks.
See the inspo?
In the thousands of years that we've lived, humans have managed to make so many different shows and build characters off of those shows, and most of these shows try to differ from each other. However, with there being so many things to watch and so many characters, the consequences is that there are too many characters who end up riffing on each other.
But let me tell you, this does not apply to Huey Freeman.
In my personal opinion, Huey Freeman easily stands out as a character simply because of his views on the world. I don't think I've ever watched a character I resonate with on such a cultural and philosophical level as much as Huey. Huey is a character whose whole philosophy falls in the idea of nihilism. On Google, it states that nihilism is the belief that rejects fundamental aspects of human existence, such as knowledge, morality, or meaning. In even extreme cases, some nihilists believe that life is meaningless. However, I don't think this applies to Huey. Huey partakes in everything else nihilistic. He very often and repetitively goes against things that society as a whole universally agrees on. Maybe you are part of the camp that believes that Jesus was white.
Think again.
Or maybe you plan on telling your daughter one day that Santa Claus is real. Best believe that Huey will be there to tell her otherwise. Huey's perspective as a kid is very intriguing because even at his young age, he sees the world as very unjust and messed up. One of my favorite episodes of the show is the very last episode of season 1. In it, Huey tries to save a friend whose fate has been sealed by the American justice system. His friend was a black man who had been falsely incarcerated, as the justice system of America usually does. Huey, being intelligent and an overachiever in his own right, plans to break his friend out of prison. Ultimately though, his plans fall through, and in agonizing defeat, he falls to his knees with all his hopes and prays through tears.
And mind you, this is a character that almost never shows any form of emotion.
He prays to a god, unsure of which one he is talking to. My personal favorite line in that scene goes as such: "Maybe I'm too young to know what the world is supposed to be, but it's not supposed to be this. It can't be."
I tell you, there's just something about those lines coming from Huey. I know we all think because of the way he acts he's mature, but this is a kid, mind you, remember that.
I think I resonate with Huey heavy because in a lot of ways, I also don't subscribe to things just because they're popular. Maybe Jesus was black. Who's to say he wasn't? You can't because you didn't live back then. Or maybe the earth really is flat. I don't know. I've never been to space. My point is, almost always, unless I see something, I don't believe it.
Because after all, seeing is believing.
I think I resonate with Huey more on a Stoic philosophy. Stoicism being the idea that if something goes wrong and you had no power or control over it, it's simply best to pick yourself up and keep moving. After all, what good is it going to do you to dwell on your failures? Huey is a multitude of things, to put it short, and it would take the whole video to analyze him to the fullest. I'll leave this clip right here to simply sum up his character in the best way that I can.
Because the truth hurts, Jasmine. The world is a hard and lonely place, and nobody gets anything for free. And you want to know what else? One day, you and everyone you know is gonna die.
As a kid, we quickly learn that everything has opposition to it. What goes up must come down. If you believe in God, well then there has to be a devil. If Huey is a character who sees all the bad in his community and actively fights to correct it, then Riley is his ultimate antithesis, someone who actively indulges in the chaos. Riley Freeman is a character who, just like his brother, is able to recognize the negative aspects of the black community. However, unlike his brother Huey, he actively enjoys and revels in the chaos and destruction brought by the community. Riley is a character whose attitude in life runs off of the basis of hypermasculinity, money, and in the same way that I can relate to Huey, I can also relate to Riley.
Like, I mean, I'm not a thug or anything. Just hear me out.
The Freeman family is a family who originally grew from Chicago before moving to Woodcrest. Chicago is famously notorious for the amount of gang violence that occurs yearly. As someone who grew up in the Bronx, New York, I can quite confidently say that I have known kids like Riley my whole life. Heck, at times I behave like Riley. Not in criminality, but in mannerisms. However, I strive to be as thought-provoking and wise as Huey.
Like how the two brothers grew in the same situation and yet they both grew so differently from each other, I will never know.
Riley believes himself to be a
Real nigga.
He believes that if you ain't stacking paper or tricking these hoes, then you just a bum. This is Riley's most outward look. On the inside, however, he is quite intelligent in his own right. Nothing close to Huey, but still, just enough. He is also a very talented artist, something that I also relate to him with. However, sadly, he would rather indulge in criminal activities than pick up a spray paint and lay down some paint.
Unless, of course, laying paint has to do with some criminal activities. Yeah, he'll be there. He'll be there.
In all honesty though, if just for the purposes of the show, Riley is just a muse to watch.
To scare me, a prison full of ass niggas. The convicts is ass niggas. All they did was vote. The COs was ass cause they just fell over. And Tom, you was a ass too, cause all you did was run. They wouldn't know what to do with a real like me up in here. Lucky for them, I'm a little kid, so they can't put me in a real jail. They gotta put me in a jail for like real little kids.
Nope, not doing it.
Granddad bitches Freeman. I think it would be pretty fair to say that we all have a family member who is just like Granddad. I think the best way I can describe Granddad is that he is very, very, very stubborn. If you ever thought that you knew the definition of stubborn, I urge you to think again. There were so many times when they would very clearly tell Granddad what would happen if he listened to Riley, that things would end up worse than he thought. Take the exhibit episode for example. In the episode, Riley convinces Granddad to lie about his sight, to say that he was blind and he would be able to get on the TV show, which would lead to a whole new pimped out car. Obviously, lying is almost never a good thing, and karma is also a very real thing, but Granddad couldn't care less. He wants his car, and that's the end of that. He goes through with Riley's proposal. Of course, it backfires and they end up with holes in their house and in debt for the changes made to the car. This is far from the only time Granddad chooses not to heed a warning. There's the time when Huey and even Riley, yes, Riley of all people, tried to tell Granddad that going out with let's just say a woman of many secrets was a bad idea. Did Granddad listen? Of course not. By the end of the episode, it comes out that Crystal is a woman of many secrets. Actually, we the audience, Riley and Huey already knew this. However, he seemed shocked by the revelation, and it's like, how? All the signs were there. The woman's name was literally that of an alcoholic beverage, which women with many secrets are known to have. Despite this being the case, I think that there is a deeper meaning to why Granddad acts so oblivious at times. Like with the Crystal situation, Granddad is a man who fears more than anything dying alone. He longs for affection and knows he does not have that many years to live, if that. Because of this, he goes above and beyond to find any kind of affection, unless the woman is crazy or like straight up ugly. And let me tell you, Granddad hates ugly women.
Time after time after time, they always be alone. Lock them up, charge them with fraud. I be snitching on ugly women all day. I said, give them the chair, electrocute their ugly asses. I'll pull that switch quick.
As far as philosophies go, I have no idea what Granddad's is, but in terms of how he is used to portray the black stereotype, I think Granddad is meant to represent how stuck in our ways we are as a people. I hate to say it, but sometimes we hate to listen to reason. Hell, that's the whole reason why moments are even a thing. I don't blame Granddad in the slightest for the way he is though. Centuries of torture will do crazy things to any man, and I say that for the whole black community. Don't get it twisted though, at the end of the day, we still love Granddad. Just because we are able to recognize and point out his flaws doesn't mean that we detest him. He is still one of our own. He is still family. And knowing your loved one's flaws and loving them anyways is the way things should be. Unless they're batshit crazy or something worse. I'm sure Huey would agree.
In 2024, it's very rare to have a show come around and have characters who all intrigue you. Like, I know for a fact a show about any single one of these three characters would like do really well because we simply like the characters on their own. Like, all three of them being in the same story, pushing and tugging, like, it's just a thing of beauty. Honestly though, I think it's really sad how like in 2024 a show like this would not survive like not even a day. As a kid, I always thought we would have flying cars by 2020. Little did I know that so many people would have their heads so high in the sky that cars literally would not be necessary, or flying cars at that. Like, people simply cannot agree to disagree anymore. You either align with a popular view or you simply become an outcast. And I think that's ultimately really sad. I've heard talks of there being a reboot for this show, and honestly, I think we're good. Like, they would just take the IP and these characters that we've come to love so much and literally butcher them. Like, they've done this with so many different shows recently. Like, for example, the Scooby-Doo one with Velma or whatever, like, come on. That show is, like, straight ass. Like, if I really want to watch the Boondocks, I don't need a reboot. Like, I just need some time to pass and then, like, go back and rewatch it. And then, you know, I get that same feeling again, you know?
If anything, I want to see a show about the life and mentality of Kaido, the strongest creature.